Well, I would call myself a world citizen because I just don't believe in the very fact that borders make sense. I mean, I was born in Chile and I grew up in Italy and in England and in Germany, and I don't believe in this concept of a nation. I do believe in common grounds, in what brings us together and what we all have in common. And I know that it's super important to acknowledge that depending on where you come from, it marks you as a human being, and there is this big cultural aspect of it that is to be acknowledged. But at the same time, it's so much more important to remind ourselves that we as humankind have way more in common than what separates us. And yeah, we're all just world citizens trying our best to create alternatives and to create the world we want to live in. I think the common ground for everyone in Berlin is that people want to let you live the way you are, no matter where you come from, no matter how you look like. As much as I like to travel, right now I'm in the only place I want to be, because I feel like the city needs me right now, the culture needs me right now. I don't want to be traveling around somewhere. I want to be here in Uhu, in Beate Uwe, in places that need our support. And yeah, it's a time to grow, and I'm growing exactly here where I am. When I think about culture and I think about narratives, as I just say, it is the same feeling I have when I read history, when I think about ancient culture, because at the end of the day, culture is a narrative that is given on from one person to another, and it doesn't actually really matter in which time we're putting this frame of narrative into. Art can be a form of creating such a narrative. A conversation, a book, whatever can be a form of this narrative. And at the end of the day, maybe culture is a perception, a way of telling a story of what is currently important right now, and giving this knowledge on to another person, another generation. And by that comes hope. So this is maybe why I said hope. I do feel like in our Western society there is maybe a nostalgia, a need to refer to religion or an ancient knowledge that we just didn't really grow up with, and what we call religion is something that is actually so much more when we think about the indigenous culture that has so much knowledge and is so profoundly important in actually a lot of topics that we're facing as a society right now. So I couldn't answer the question saying that I'm torn towards the one or to another. I would maybe answer the question in a way that I would say that as a society we need to remind ourselves where we come from, and that a lot of this ancient knowledge holds the key to a lot of the big questions of our times. I would say the role of subculture in what it can do for politics, it can create easily alternatives. And if we're outspoken about which alternatives we're creating, we can inspire a lot, because actually every single political movement was born out of a subculture, like a little niche. At the beginning, the gay movement was, although it's not a niche, it was a niche movement. When we talk about language, of diversity language, at the beginning it was just a little niche. Now people are starting more and more to talk about that. So subculture is there to hold their flags up high and to say, look, this is where we as society are standing right now. And with art and with creativity and without financial bonds, we are creating the narratives that can be the stories of tomorrow. I would say that my art is as much political as it is personal. I cannot really separate both from each other. I remember one fusion I was where my set was interrupted because somebody died in this moment, and the whole festival had to be silent for 15 minutes. And it touched me personally a lot. And it was also a political moment, because it was a silence that was needed, because we need to talk about consumption and we need to dedicate ourselves to how sustainable we are also on a social level with each other. Like, hedonism has also their backsides. And so in that moment afterwards, I recorded the set and I decided to maintain the 15 minutes of silence. That was the starting point of my set, because I wanted to include, as well as the personal as also the political dimension. Hedonism is something that we all deserve. Hedonism has also a fine line, because if it's just about the joy and it comes without responsibility, it has a downfall. So hedonism, if it's shared with everyone, it can be amazing. But I also think that hedonism comes with a set of responsibility. If it's thought through, it can be very political, and it can be something that gives you energy in times where you have none. Yeah, so actually when I did my South America tour, it was quite important to me to change a little bit my habits, because as a Latina I grew up with the idea of I could just only leave the house with makeup on, and I'm only lovable as a woman if I wore makeup. And when I did my South America tour, I wanted to emancipate myself from that, and as an artist use the visibility I have to change the narrative. At the end of the day, was quite challenging for me, because the feedback wasn't always that good. I mean, that's why it is a political statement after all. But I felt also super empowered by Alejandra Ocasio-Cortez, the congresswoman, because she was saying and making clear that females that wear makeup earn way more than females that don't wear makeup. And of course, it's not something that you need to follow if you don't believe in it. But I feel like it's very good to know stuff like that. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we all need to obey this, but I think it's super important to know about that and to talk about that, because only like this we can really emancipate ourselves from structures that we actually don't really believe in. And that being said, I still love this little routine before I play to put sometimes some shiny makeup on. I like colors, obviously, so I like that too. But it's good to know that I don't have to, because I choose when I want to wear makeup because I like it, but I don't have to. Right now, in times of silence, we really feel that it's still important to maintain the stages to create visibility for marginalized people and artists. So I created a little program called Club Cultural. So it's Club, Culture and All. And it's a program about diversity and empowerment. And we're talking about different aspects of club culture. And in 6 episodes, we touch different topics that will hopefully inspire people and make them want to continue. I think diversity is one of the most important things we have to not just acknowledge but also empower. So this program is all about diversity and empowerment, and we're not just trying to give a stage and visibility to Flinta and BPOC people on the stage, but also behind the scenes, because it's important to switch up power structures and instead of having everywhere just males, also say, hey, we can create a diversity that speaks for itself, and that is good. And yeah, that's what we want to do, and hopefully we'll inspire people to do the same. I think club culture in general is political because it forms a society. You find here in this little biotope of people coming together a version of reality that is created by us. And by this creation, you find an alternative of how it could be. We here are creating diversity. We're inviting people in to come to share what they know, to nurture each other. And I don't want to sound naive, but I really feel like it's a highly political thing that we're approaching here. The best club night has nothing to do with how many or how little people are in there. I think when I play, for example, what I love to achieve is a moment where we all forget about the hierarchies, where I don't exist as a DJ on a stage anymore and I serve people, but where I'm soaked in with all the beautiful energy of the stage, where people smile at me, when people dance, when I get inspired, and we create together this moment of holiness where, yeah, we just smile at each other and not just accept but celebrate our uniquenesses. You know, at the end of the day, culture, and therefore also club culture, is a fluid concept. If we think about the 70s, how everything started, how for the first time little shelters were created, if we think about the voguing culture, then we romanticize something that was also involved in a big social fight back then. And with what media is about, if we now see and perceive those movements in the 70s, we want to maybe imitate parts of this. And with the knowledge of now, we are getting a little bit more sensitive, knowing that, for example, voguing has a big culture behind, and if everyone just vogues without knowing about the political and social impact and surrounding, it's just cultural appropriation. And I think we're hitting to a place where we can learn from each other and switch to appropriating something that we actually just might like from an innocent point of view, but with this knowledge shifting to appreciation and really informing ourselves. Where does this music, where does this dance come from? And with this in mind, we're able to also create new shelters, including what we know and hitting to the next step. And I think there is a lot of beauty that is still waiting for us. Well, the sad downtempo scene today, I think, is super important because also in these times of struggle, there is this big need of slowing down, centering yourself, finding a peace within you and sharing this peace with other people. And that being said, I think that downtempo is an important contribution to our times, and it will always maintain important because I don't think that the society around us will slow down by itself. So downtempo as an advocate for creating those moments of slowing your pace will always stay important, I guess. I think the elements of my music are a mosaic of personal memories, of political thoughts, of the intention of wanting unconditional love and offering unconditional love, of putting myself out there, because I actually don't really like that much to be center of attraction. But when I start playing, I am surrounded by the love of music, and it is such an intense feeling that when I share that, something is created that goes way beyond myself. And I think that that describes my music way better than to tell you which genres I play, because I like to go on a journey, switch countries and switch from jazz to hip-hop and unite everything by the beats of downtempo and electronic music. But at the end of the day, it's more about the intention of love, and by that also a political statement that the more love we share, the farther we go as a society. Well, when I started to play music, I was wondering, as every DJ, how should I call myself? And I actually never really found a lot of beauty when I looked at the mirror, and I was challenged by the idea of people seeing me. And I wanted to create a name that breaks up the concept of beauty and creates something new. So Alma Linda actually means beautiful soul, and I want to remind myself that every soul is beautiful, and by reminding myself, it is also a collective name because every soul is beautiful.